All right. We're going to get this party started. I am Xavier Fox, your host of Let's Talk About It with Xavier Fox. I want to thank everyone for joining us as we launch the first talk show of the Blaze 'em Up Cigar Radio. Hey, shouts out to Jeff Davis. Go ahead. He's doing great things out there in Dallas. All right, today my guest hosts are Nyatu Marvell and Marvin Harris, and they are going to do a relationship Q&A with questions submitted by women on social media discussions. Now, each of my guest hosts will host their own monthly show here on the station starting November 1st. So tune in for all the launch shows through the end of this month so you get to meet everybody. So right now, I'm going to introduce my guest hosts. Let me see here. It looks like somebody is running a little late. Let me see. You know, social media is a great thing. You can hop on and ask people, where are they? Let's see. But first, since my guest host Marvin Harris was on time and is in the studio, let me go ahead and introduce him. How you doing, Marvin?
Hey, Xavier, how you doing? I'm doing just great.
That is excellent. Okay, so I would love for you to tell everybody a little bit about yourself since you are going to be one of the regular guest hosts on a monthly show. So let everybody know who you are, what you do, and what they can expect from your upcoming show.
Oh, absolutely. So my show is going to be called Love, Sex, and the Ships They Ride In On. And the ships refer to companionship, relationships, friendships, situationships, whatever you want to call your ship. We're going to talk about love and sex as it relates to those relationships. And as far as who I am and my background, I am a practicing psychotherapist, and I've been doing this work for almost 30 years now. Many people that are part of my practice over the years, they've come for couples, marital, relationship counseling. And we've been able to successfully, provide, what they needed during that period of time. So we got a bit of a knowledge base when it comes to this. And we are hoping that this setting that we're in right now will prove to be very positive for many people that chime in. We want to be able to provide them some insight, guidance, whatever they need to kind of get over the hump or to, successfully be a part of a relationship.
Okay, that sounds great. I'm looking forward to, definitely looking forward to your shows. I think we're going to have some really great conversations. So I see that Mr. Marvell has joined us. Okay, I'm fiddling around with this. I'm fiddling around with the Zoom. I don't know what I'm doing. So anyway, Nyatu, are you there?
Hey, yeah, I'm here. Happy Friday, everyone.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you as well. So introduce yourself, let everybody know what you do, and let them know what they can expect from your monthly show, since you are one of the guest hosts that will be doing a monthly show.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you first and foremost, Xavier, for having me on the show. Salute to the other guests. I'm excited about getting some questions in today and having this conversation with you guys. I'm in Nyatu. Marvel is Hitch. I am a dating and relationship consultant, certified life coach, as well as a certified couples counselor, that is premarital and marriage counseling. I'm also a published author and the proud equity partner in Moore's Beer, plug, Black-owned beer company out of Chicago, launched Juneteenth. We have 3 beers out and 100 accounts, and we just got a nice little press run. We're in the Chicago Tribune, we're in Crane's Chicago Business, we're in Rolling Out, and we're in the Time Out magazine. And so my mindset is all about being helpful, particularly towards the Black community and Black culture. I would love for people to really see the value of a healthy relationship, partnership, and possibly marriage, if that's what you're interested in. I think, unfortunately, Black relationships and dating get so much bad press and so much of a bad rep. And some of it is deserved and some of it is not. And so I just hope to help change that narrative over time.
Oh, yeah. The relationship shows are always a passion for me because I also am a certified life coach and I kind of specialize in relationships as well. And I chose to do 2 relationship shows back to back. I don't know if any of the listeners were in yesterday, but we did a relationship love readings in honor of tomorrow being Sweetest Day. And so I thought today we would bring the fellas in because yesterday I had Miss Rita on and she was excellent and she had all of this good stuff to say about the people who submitted their days of birth and what their compatibility and love probability would be. I even talked about a crush that I had. It was pretty cool. I don't think anybody even knew I had a crush on anybody ever. But anyway, so today I'm really excited about the questions that were submitted to ask you guys. And so we're going to go ahead and jump right on into it because I'm anticipating that you will have some dialogue with your answers to these questions. Nyatu, your little thing is at the top of my screen. So I'm going to start with you. And then the same question goes for you as well, Marvin. And we just going to go and, feel free to expound on your answers. We have some time. You don't have to rush. Let everybody get a feel for it. And we may even get some callers. So here's the first question, gentlemen. And we're going to get this from a man's point of view. What 3 pieces of relationship advice would you give to women? Nyatu?
Sure. First and foremost, and this is gender neutral, but learn your partner, right? Like really learn what makes them feel respected, learn what makes them feel supported, learn how to communicate effectively with them, learn how to make them feel seen and heard. Study your partner is one piece of advice that I would give. The second piece of advice that I would give is really stay true to yourself. Hopefully the best version of yourself, but definitely stay true to yourself. I find that one of the biggest barriers to people having healthy relationships is that we all want to be loved for exactly who we are, right? The good, the bad, and the ugly. But a lot of times we're afraid to share with the other person the bad and the ugly. We only want to share the good. And if you do that, that person can't love you for you. And 2, they can't really assess whether or not you're truly the person for them. And so it could end up in a big waste of time if you're not true to who you are. You can't sustain pretending to be somebody else or putting on that representative for too long. And then last but not least, women in relationships, tune out society. You need to understand what your romantic needs and wants are that are true to who you are, and not what all the posts or the relationship gurus or experts or the Black and women divide instigators are saying, and let that dictate what's happening in your relationship. So yeah, cover your ears and cover your heart to some of the nonsense that may be being projected onto you and spewed onto you that doesn't ring true and resonate for you. So that's my 3, Xavier.
Okay, those were great ones as well, especially tuning out society a little bit, because a lot of people have a lot of stuff to say. And one thing that I have been saying for the past 2 years, because they really like to label you in this society we live in, and that relationship guru thing is like the worst title ever. There is no guru in relationships because each relationship is different. So you have to be a guru on everybody's different relationship. And that's just impossible because there's too many variables, Okay, so Marvin, the same 3 questions. What 3 the question.
What 3 pieces of relationship
advice would you give to women? Yes.
Yeah, right. Well, some of what I'm saying is going to overlap what Nyatu has said. I might be saying it slightly differently, but I think we're on the same page. The first thing that comes to mind is that you, as women, I believe it's important that you love yourself. All right, before you even get into a relationship, it's essential that you are able to identify with who you are and really embrace the person that you are.
I
All
agree
right,
100%.
because relationships are challenging, and one of the things that relationships do is they present a mirror to you, and you get involved with somebody, and everything about yourself that you know and that you didn't know is going to come out. So you got to come with a certain level of love and confidence, so that you can face, what you're going to be seeing in the mirror. So that would be the first thing I would say. Um, the next thing I would say when it comes to relationships is that before you embark on actually being in a relationship, no matter what kind of relationship it is, you need to talk about your experiences, um, as far as your view of what a relationship is. Because everybody's view of a relationship, be it a marriage or just a long-term serious relationship, is going to be different. All right. And these require conversations between the two of you so that you can know what the expectations are. All right. And when we don't have conversations like this leads to a lot of conflict in relationships because we have expectations. And we have expectations that we bring to the table based upon our experiences and based upon what we've seen in the lives of our parents and other people in our life. So we have to have conversations about relationships in order to have a successful one. And then the last thing that kind of comes to mind is, there's a lot of talk about gender and gender roles and women should do this or men should do this, or, if you're in a relationship and there are certain things that one should do and certain things that the other shouldn't do, I think the language that should be used, it should be less about gender, all right, and more about partnership. Relationships, when they are at their most successful, the two parties recognize that it's a partnership and there is equality going on in terms of the responsibilities and the expectations of the relationship. But when we get into this whole idea that, oh, you should be doing this and this is what I should be doing and you shouldn't be doing this, I think that's where we kind of have a lot of issues. Relationships, when they're successful, they are partnerships. And people sit down and they figure out how to partner with one another.
Okay. All right, that was good. I did have a little spin-off question from that one. I think I posted this on my page once. You mentioned that you have to love yourself, which I definitely agree with. Do you think in general, now I know that you're in practice as well, do you think in general women actually love themselves? Society is kind of hard on women, what we can't do, shouldn't do, what we couldn't wear, just historically, we've been kind of, put into a box and we are encouraged to be married. And it's almost as if your husband's identity becomes your identity. And I don't think women, my friend said this, and I do agree with him to some degree. I just want to get your thoughts on it. I think to some degree, women don't necessarily learn to love themselves unless they are connected to someone else. What do you think about that? Do you think women love themselves?
So, Xavier, I think there is some truth in what you're saying, because, and you've identified some of the sources when it comes to this. I believe that over the years, historically, women have always been taught to care for other people, to nurture and to care for other people. And that's their priority. And yes, I have heard throughout the years, through our institutions that we embrace, such as, churches, that, women identify themselves with their husband, right? And when you talk about these two examples, and there are many more, what's obvious here is that there's nothing in the language that really encourages a woman to love herself. Everything is about loving somebody else, loving her husband, loving her children, loving her relatives, loving her friends. You know, it's all about nurturing and caring for other people. And there doesn't seem to be room, or at least an acknowledgement, that they need to love themselves. One of the things that I'm finding, and a lot when I'm interacting with women in my practice, is that I have to remind them to prioritize themselves.
Ah.
I have to remind them that. And then when I use the word priority, they immediately resist the idea of that, because they start listing all the things that they're responsible for.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't include themselves on that list. And if they do, they're dead last. So loving yourself is essential. It's essential. And yeah, there's a problem. I have to say, you know, there is a problem in our community when it comes to women loving themselves.
Okay. All right. I agree. And that creates a whole problem within itself with regard to why they choose men and what men they choose. But we'll get into that down the road a little bit. Let me get to question number 2, because we got almost 12 of these. Plus, I have a special guest I want to bring in at some point, because he's been doing some very interesting posts on Facebook, and I wanted to get you guys input on his red flags. It's been kind of funny to me. So question number 2, do you think men's views on dating and relationships has changed over the past 20 years? If so, how and why? Nyatu?
Absolutely. A lot of men's, of course, we're not a monolith, so nothing applies universally to everybody. We're not one size fits all, but there's tremendous evidence out there to show that a lot of men have changed their views on dating and romance and things of that nature. And what I understand is, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. It's pure science. And so a chain of events and changes occurred the last century. Unless I'm mistaken, they were driven by women. Women led a movement to go to work and to make money and to be paid equally. Women led a movement to be sexually liberated. And I support whatever women want for themselves. I have no qualms with that. But what women aren't exempt from, and what those movements aren't exempt from, is a reaction. So if the scenario goes from men making all the money and women making none of the money, and men being the providers and paying for everything, to women making a lot of money, just as much money, and in some cases even more money, there's going to be an equal and opposite reaction to that. That a man is going to begin to ask himself, well, if everything about her and how she's moving and how she thinks and how she's proceeding in life has changed, why would I stay the same? Another dynamic that has impacted dating is, again, I wasn't around in the 50s and 60s, but if I understand the dating process correctly early on, that women's families were actively engaged in their dating process, that most women weren't allowed to entertain multiple suitors at once, and certainly not to be courted by more than one man at once. And there were rules to the game where if a man presented himself correctly and behaved correctly, courted the woman correctly and respected the family correctly, and then proposed with permission, he ended up with a wife. And once that woman married that man, that woman's family would support her staying married to that man. And so all of those dynamics have changed. And again, I'm not here to tell anybody what's best for them or that they should not have changed. But what I am saying is people have to recognize that there's going to be a reaction to that change, and rightfully so. So that is why I think a lot of men's perspective has changed surrounding dating and romance.
Okay, so because women make money now, dating and relationships changed, and because the family is no longer involved, the dating and relationship process has changed. Okay, you made really good points. Yeah, you made really good points. but I can't say anything. I want to say something, but I really can't say anything because, like you said, there is a reaction. For every action, there is a reaction. So, okay, Marvin, same question. Do you think men's views on dating has changed over the past 20 years? If so, how and why?
So I'm going to say something that might be a little bit opposite of what's been said, but it's actually just, I think the key word here is evolution. All right. I think there was a more simple way of doing most things in life years ago. Okay. So if you want to get married, years ago, decades ago, you get introduced to somebody by someone that you know or were related to, and then y'all get married. It was just simple. It was more simple. I think what has occurred over time is that dating and relationships and marriage and women and men, I think it's all evolved. I remember when I was in high school and I was trying to figure out what college I was going to go to, or if I was going to go to the military. I was just trying to figure out life at that point. And my guidance counselor told me that you need a liberal arts education. And, some may argue with that, all right, but what I will tell you is that the idea of actually opening up and allowing yourself to look at things from different perspectives allows for the opportunity of evolution. And what evolution really is just growing, allowing yourself to grow, and it's allowing yourself to experience life in different ways. And, the women's movement, while it opened up the opportunity for women to actually work during a time where men were away at war, it evolved into something much larger than that. Okay. And to me, it doesn't mean that anybody has absolutely changed, because I think the word change means, at least in my head, and maybe in you all's too, when I hear the word change, that means that, it's not the way it used to be. And I don't necessarily see it that way. I think the principles and the desires that people have when it comes to relationships and stuff like that, they're, in its most simplest form, it's still the same. We just go about it in a more complex kind of way because we've grown over the years. And many of us have remained open to possibilities and exploring and trying to figure out a way to do things differently than the way it was done before. So I don't know if I've, kind of like created complexity here by answering it this way, but I just kind of feel like things have just evolved over the years. And I believe they will continue to evolve if we allow ourselves to be open to it.
Okay. So I want to ask both of you just a general question. So these changes in dating and relationships, do you think that they are positive changes, or do you think that it has changed for it was a not so good change?
I think it depends on who you're asking. And so some people will say, hey, they love it the way it is right now. And I see a lot of people saying there's pee in the dating pool, right? So it all depends on what your particular experience is. I would love to see Black culture, Black men and women more unified and more on the same page and not so adversarial. So I'm not exactly pleased with that part of the dynamic, but ultimately I accept life as it comes to me, and I adjust and excel and prosper regardless. So I just think it's who you at.
Okay, Marvin.
Anytime change takes, anytime people are growing, there's going to be like growing pains that come along with it. So some of the things that people are experiencing right now when it comes to dating and relationships, it's painful because it's not what they saw growing up. It's not what their expectations were of relationships. And yeah, we have a whole new set of challenges when it comes to this. Is it good? Is it bad? I don't like to put things in those kind of like terms or categories, because I think that, even the things that are painful in life, we have a way of learning from it. So, I just kind of feel like that, again, as we remain open to possibilities and options and ways of like looking at the things that are meaningful in our life, we will grow as individuals. And even the things that are most disappointing and painful for us, they'll have a way of teaching us lessons in life. All right. And taking us to levels that we haven't been before.
All righty. Okay. We doing pretty good. That was question number 2. Okay. So here comes question number 3. So we just talked about the women making money now. So they want to know, by what date is a woman expected to offer to pay on the date? Nyatu?
I don't have that expectation. I just assess whether or not I feel the feelings and the interest is being reciprocated, however that woman so chooses to do. But I don't have any demands about what women have to do. What you do and don't do helps me assess whether or not you're for me or not. But paying for dinner or lunch or breakfast is not the only way to reciprocate. So I don't have a time frame for that.
So have you had conversation, because I see it all the time on social media. I know you're on there as well. You see men talking about, because I've just read the other day, one guy said that he stopped seeing a woman because on the second date, she didn't offer to pay the tip. So do you hear it from men in your circle?
I don't hear from men in my immediate circle, but as you, I'm out here in the world and I hear from men all the time that women should be paying for some dates too, that they should be going out Dutch at first, that by a certain date, the 3rd, the 5th, the 2nd, the 10th, everybody has their own number, but men are expecting women to reciprocate. I understand why they think that dating is expensive and the cost has gone up and up and up and up. And a lot of men feel like the rewards have gone down for that same level of effort. And so it goes back to what I said about how things have changed. If women are making just as much money as men, some men feel like, well, why should she get to keep all her money and I have to spend all of mine, especially in a situation where women are multi-dating, possibly being courted by multiple men. It just doesn't feel like a great investment to a lot of men because they don't feel like they see a return on that investment. And to men, I don't know the numbers or the statistics, but there's a significant number of men who are looking for women to reciprocate financially almost immediately.
Okay, and the same question for you, Marvin.
Yeah, I think that behind this question is what we've kind of been talking about over the first couple of questions, and that is like this, this evolution of expectation. Years ago, I believe that the expectation was that men would pursue women and you have to do things, which include taking them out to dinner, to impress them. All right. So that they will decide to be in a relationship with you. Okay. But as time has passed, and then again, as things have evolved, we've come to terms with, the best way to kind of look at relationships is through, the lens of partnership. And if we really going to get into, the desire that people have for equality, it does fall into this category as well. Now, with that said, though, I think a simple way to kind of like get around this is just if you ask somebody out, that means you should pay for it.
Right.
It's just that simple. So, and that applies to whoever does the asking out. So, when should women start paying for lunch or for dinner? When they ask somebody out, you should pay for it at that point.
Okay.
Mhm.
So is there an expectation that by the, let's just say the 5th date, you would think the woman would have initiated a date by then?
Absolutely. So if you're kind of like going out and you're going out consistently, and there are these overtures that you all are really interested in one another, at some point, just based upon the fact that she's enjoying this company, at some point she's gonna say, hey, let's go to the movies, or let's go to this concert, let's go to this. And if you ask somebody out, you should be paying for it. It's just that simple.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. And piggybacking on that question, this was a 2-part question. I wanted to get the first part out first. So the second part of that question is, by what date is a woman expected to have sex on the date? Don't be so quiet.
So yeah, for me, I don't have an expectation about it, because I see a beautiful woman, or even if I enjoy a couple of conversations with her, I haven't pre-decided that I want to have sex with her. So I don't have a date by which I think I should have sex with her. So I definitely don't have a date by which I think that woman should sleep with me. So I've met a woman and went out on the first date with her, and then didn't have sex with her for 7 months. And then I've slept with people on the first night. But I don't have an expectation. I'm more of just a go with the flow type of person. And I don't believe in even bringing that up in conversation. Either it'll happen naturally on its own, or it won't. But definitely verbally trying to convince a woman to have sex with you is a poor strategy.
Oh
Or
yeah,
even-
if you have to verbally
You
convince
got
a woman to have sex with you, you just not gonna get none. That is not gonna happen. That is never good. Marvin, what do you think? So by what date is a woman expected to offer or participate in sexual activity?
So I'm stumbling here a little bit because there's a lot in this question here. There's a lot that's assumed in this question. All right, but the one thing that really is paramount here when it comes to this particular question is that for some reason, all right, it is understood that women are like prey for some reason. All right. It's like, but even the way the question is phrased, there seems to be some understanding that, at some point, like even when you're hunting, at some point, there is an opportunity for you to actually like shoot the deer or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And it has that same kind of feel to it when it comes to this particular question, like women are prey at some point. And lovemaking at its best, always involves 2 partners. And it's not going to be one partner just, like, okay, saying, yeah, it's going to happen today. It's going to be both partners sort of like looking at one another and knowing that it's going to happen today, not trying to figure out if she's going to actually like give in to my desires today. Do you hear what I'm saying? It's like
Yep.
it doesn't feel mutual. It doesn't feel mutual. And again, when we're talking about like combining 2 bodies together, 2 spirits together, blending of emotions, that takes 2 people. And that can happen the first date, that can happen the third date, that can happen 7 months from the first date. Whenever the chemistry hits the both of them, that's when it's going to happen.
Right, and I'm big on chemistry. So,
and the responsibility should not be entirely on the woman for that to happen.
so I'm Nyatu. I know you're out and about a bit on social media, much like I am. So as we were talking about the circle of men, or not your circle necessarily, but as you're out and about, I know there's a magic number because I've heard it. So what's that magic number that you've heard?
Of when men want a woman to sleep with them?
Yep, on the dates.
The first date. That's what they want. That's day one. That's from what I hear, that's what most of these men are praying for or wanting or hoping happens, or even trying to set the stage for when I hear the stories about some of these first date experiences. I can see, okay, he tried to set the situation up, so that hopefully they could have sex that first night. So that is what the expectation is, and definitely shorter than 90 days, because men are going in on Steve Harvey creating that a 90-day rule. But yeah, I think a lot of men want to have sex the first night.
And I've heard men say on my page that if a woman doesn't have sex with you by the third date, then she doesn't like you. Anybody else heard that?
There is a meme circulating that says if she hasn't kissed you by the third day, she's just there for the food.
Oh, dang.
So I guess that applies.
I might almost go along with that, because if I'm feeling him, you're probably gonna kiss him on the first date if you really feeling him, but you definitely gonna kiss him on the second date if you really feeling him. Otherwise, why are you even on the second date? So right. I have to almost agree with that one. Okay. So the next question is, what's most important? A woman's income, a woman's sex game, or a woman's physical appearance and body? Come on now, we don't need no dead air.
Okay, so.
Oh, go ahead, Marvin.
All right, so are we like answering these questions from a male point of view?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So, those are the three options. But I'm really hoping that there is more to choose from here. Okay, because sex and body, those two things, they sort of like are intertwined, and they change over the years. Income is important, all right. But I hate to kind of like go off the scale here, but I'm looking more for something along the lines of like inner qualities. When I look at women, I'm at this juncture in my life, and also in my practice, I think what's most important is the ability to be integral, honest, empathetic, thoughtful. Those are sort of like the inner qualities that are most important. Unfortunately, the world that we live in, the society that we live in, they've put a priority on things like sex and body and income. But ultimately, if we're talking about the greatest qualities of women, neither one of those are most important.
Okay, neither of those.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's quite interesting, because those are pretty much the three things that women seem to be judged on. Nyatu, what's your input on that? Which one is most important? Her income, the sex game, or a woman's physical appearance and body?
Yeah, I agree with Marvin, but I won't repeat what he said. So thank you, Marvin, for straying off the multiple choice answers, but because you did it on both of our behalf, then I'll try to address the order. And so usually the first thing I'm attracted to is a woman's, physical appearance. And even if I get the chance to read something she says that impacts me, or hear something that she says that impacts me before I see her, the first thing I want to do is go see her, right? I run across a social media post and it sounds really intelligent, it resonates with me, impresses me. Okay, now I want to see who the woman is that's talking. I want to see what she looks like. And so from that standpoint, that comes first. When you said that choice, you said appearance, and I believe you added like body type.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I want to address that a bit separately. I'm attracted to women of all different heights, shapes, sizes, and body types. And so I'm sure that it doesn't work this way for all men, but how it works for me is either I'm attracted to you or I'm not. So if I am attracted to you, I'm not going to later on think to myself, I wish she didn't have stretch marks, or I wish her breasts were bigger, or I wish her butt was bigger. If I'm attracted to you and you got a little booty, I'm gonna be gripping and squeezing and cupping that thing. You feel like you Buffy the body as far as your butt is concerned. I've dated women, a couple of women whose breasts were, deflated during the course of pregnancy. But if I'm attracted to them, I just don't care. So that's where I'm at with that. What were the other two choices? Money and what else? Sex.
Mm-hmm.
Sex. Sex is not the most important thing to me, but it definitely is important, and forever is a long time to be with somebody with whom you depend on solely for sex and you don't enjoy it.
Right.
So that is important. And then last is money. When I find out a woman makes six figures, or the few women that I've dated who are sitting on seven figures, there's no excitement or extra attraction for me. I don't know how that's going to benefit me at all. Women's money is usually their money. And the type of man that I am, I'm not capable of making any plans with anyone else's money, right? And so all my future plans surrounding me and my wife are all surrounding my money and what I'm able to do, and anything else would be extra. So in that regard, it's important that a woman is able to take care of herself. But outside of that, I don't really give too much credence to how much money they make.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. I just want to read a comment that was made on the last question with regard to, what was that question? Let me go back to the question so I can make sure I get it right. Oh, by what date is a woman expected to offer or pay for dates, and then the sex? And there was a comment made that said, my dates don't constitute money. My date constitutes great conversation. If we can't have great conversation and communication, we can't go out in public together. My money don't talk for me. And he said the magic number, as far as the sex part, the magic number is when it happens. The first night is when you're a player. If you're looking for a wife, you don't want it the first night. Does that make a difference, actually? If you get it the first night, does that make her not wifey material?
I don't think so. I think, again, whether it occurs in the beginning or months down the line, it's because, maybe there's a strong sexual attraction that for some people, you just got to get it out the way. All right. And then once they get it out the way, they find that by spending time with that person, there's a lot more that they like about them. And that could lead to marriage. Right. So I'm not prepared to say that if you have sex with someone on the first date, that doesn't make her wife material. I happen to know some women who've had sex with men on the first date, and they are in 30-year relationships and in 30-year marriages. So that's just simply not true.
Okay. And I agree, because actually, you know, I'm a widow, and me and my husband, you know, it just kind of went down like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it just kind of went down like that. Okay,
You
so
know,
now
sometimes it just happens that way.
sometimes it does, you know, you can't stop it. It just is going, and you know. So I want to bring on our special guest for the day. Go ahead and unmute your mic. And I want to talk about his list of red flags when you meet a woman, and the red flags. Can you explain what your posts have been about the past few days? Because I've been cracking up.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for having me on the show. And before I get started, the answer is sex. That's the most important thing, because the money ain't yours and the looks are going to change. Anyway,
Okay.
what happened? This is a trend on Twitter, you know, where they have, you know, just a statement and then a series of red flags behind it. And I thought it was kind of fun, so I picked up on it and brought it to Facebook. And some of the ones I came up with was,
So what I want
women,
you to do, I want you to do one at a time, and then I want my guest host to comment on whether that's a red flag for them and why.
Okay, so just say it and then let them comment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Red flag number 1. My kids come first.
Okay. And Nyatu?
That raises my antenna, but I don't put a flag on it. I need more information after that. But when I hear that, I mark it down in my head, pay attention to that, because there's a dynamic going on out here that is a red flag, and that may be an indicator or the warning sign of that, in which some men are in non-romantic partnerships with their daughters, and some women are in non-romantic partnerships with their sons and or children, and don't have healthy boundaries, or what I perceive to be a healthy parent-child, even adult-child relationship. But that statement alone is not evidence of that problem, but it definitely make me pay attention.
Okay. Marvin?
I totally agree with Nyatu. You know, it's not a red flag for me, but absolutely, I need for you to flush that out if you say that to me. What does that mean? I need to see some interactions between you and your kids, because it is true. Part of the reason why, you know, our communities suffer the way they do, because the parenting and child dynamic is suffering because it's compromised. And so, yeah, it's not a red flag, but you know, you're gonna need to explain further of what you mean by that.
Interesting. Okay. Next red flag.
Women who say 6 figures ain't no money.
All right. And Nyatu?
I'll pay attention to that, not necessarily red flag, because to me, 6 figures ain't no money. That's probably just enough to make you think you got some money and get you in financial trouble if you don't really understand how much that is and how much that isn't.
All right. Marvin?
Yeah, that's a red flag. You know, I think that whether it's 6 figures or something less or more than that, to be commenting along those lines, and it causes me to question what the priorities are. It causes me to question what their own personal priorities are. And you know, if you're speaking in reference to just some of your own personal financial goals, that's fine. Okay. All right. So that language needs to be housed differently. It needs to be expressed differently. But to actually be on a date and just meeting somebody, and that's one of the first things that comes out of your mouth, yeah, that's a red flag for me. I probably wouldn't, encourage anybody to move forward with someone that makes a statement like that. You know, I don't know. That just seems like it's not it just seems like it's something that shouldn't even be commented on early on in a relationship.
Okay. All right. Next red flag.
Women who don't want to go 50-50 on bills, they say 50-50 is a roommate, but they expect the man to do half the housework.
Oh, that's interesting. All right. And Nyatu, what's your thoughts?
I think that statement sounds like entitlement to me, and entitlement is a ox blood red flag for me. I don't believe in 50-50 relationships, though. I believe in 100-100 relationships. I believe that healthy Black marriage can be used as a tool to build Black wealth. And so I believe in creating a lifestyle that is paid for by one income instead of two, but not so that my woman can take all of her income to the Gucci store, to the Louis Vuitton store, but so that a very strong percentage of that money can be put into things that generate more streams of income so that we can build Black wealth. So long story short, my woman has to be an asset to me and not a liability or dependent. I have a son. I don't need an adult woman dependent in order to have and enjoy companionship. That's my 2 cents.
And Marvin, what do you think?
I think that I agree with Inya too. It does kind of reek of entitlement, and it also doesn't bode well within the context of a relationship. There shouldn't be the kind of language in relationships where people are saying what they're not going to do, or what you should do and what I'm going to do. That kind of language doesn't work in relationships. Again, if we're talking about being in a relationship, what we're all ultimately talking about is a partnership. And then you all sit down and you talk about what your partnership is going to be like. And if you all agree to do 50-50, 70-30, whatever you all agree to, that's what you all agree to. But to actually walk into the situation or to be in a relationship and always, stating what you're not going to do, that stuff doesn't work in relationships. That's just some fairy tale stuff.
Yeah, I always have a problem with that because you find a lot of people talking about what they're not going to do, what they're not going to give, wifely privileges with girlfriend or whatever. And what's so funny to me is that cooking seems to be considered a wifely duty to some when we eat every day, so somebody has to cook. I don't think cooking is a wifely duty. If we're hungry, we need to eat, so we need to cook. It just all makes sense to me, but apparently cooking is a wifely duty. So the next time you're out there at cheesecake, I'm not gonna say I don't like to go out to eat because that would be a lie, but I do enjoy cooking because I'm kind of a health nut and I can control the foods that I eat and what goes into them. So that's why I kind of stumbled over a restaurant because I was trying to think of one. But yeah, next time you're at the Cheesecake Factory, go back there and tell that chef that he's performing a wifely duty. Okay. Is there another red flag?
I got a couple more.
Okay.
Women who tell you right off the bat on the first date that they need a secure man.
Okay, before they answer, now this is the one that I saw that I was like, if he says that one, I'm gonna have to say something. Now, I am speaking from the position of a woman who has been stalked 3 times. Okay. And jealous men can be dangerous men. So with that whole statement, you have to be really careful with making that a red flag. And another thing that I always say is that you really have to be tuned into who you're talking to. You know, people live different lifestyles, and sometimes you want to deal with them based on where you are at that time, but they may have been somewhere else. You know, they may have been somewhere else. And so you have to know who you're talking to when you make some generalized statements. And I absolutely need a secure man. As soon as a man, because, you know, I'm out here in the public, I'm out at events all the time. I interact with men all the time. I have had men who wanted to date me that had issues. You know, when we out, oh, well, you talked to him too long, or that dude was looking at you. And that's a problem for me. That ends it right there. That is my red flag if he's not a secure man. So that might be a red flag if I say it to some guy, you know, I need a man that's secure, but I'm probably saying it to him because he's showing me signs that he's not secure. He's jealous. He's monitoring me. What do I have on and all that kind of stuff. That's a pain in the butt. That's a pain in the butt. But I'm gonna go ahead and let the men, is that in Nyatu, is that a red flag for you?
No, I think everybody needs to be with a secure partner. I require a secure partner. Some women find me attractive, can be demonstrated through their actions at times. Some of the things I do for business cause me to interact with a lot of people, and a lot of those people are women as well. And so, no, I date attractive women, so I expect other men to be attracted to them. I expect other men to be pursuing them. And so, yeah, I think it requires a secure person to be in a healthy relationship, period, no matter what the gender.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think it's a red flag because women want a man that's secure, but men want women that are secure too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you talked about stalking before, Xavier, and you know, one of the trends that I'm seeing right now, even in my practice, are you know, these sort of like insecurities that people are bringing to relationships based upon past relationships and past traumas, right? And they haven't healed from them, and they bring it into the relationship, and it creates these sort of insecurities where you know they want to know everything that a person is doing with someone else other than them. I mean everything, and they want to go through phones, and they want to like invade people's privacy and stuff. It's you know these are issues that are present in relationships because people haven't healed from situations that they've been in. So when someone says that to me, you know, I'm equally as concerned about that same topic with the other person.
Right. Augustus, did you have a comment you wanted to make on that red flag yourself?
Yeah, you know, you guys took it to a whole dark spot, and I understand that it's everybody's personal experience, but it's been my experience that whenever a woman told me that right off the rip, it's because she had an extremely large friend zone, and there was a whole lot of guys that were waiting to get in. And you know, my girlfriend is a celebrity. She's approached all the time. You know, guys are all around her all the time, and she's a beautiful woman. So I understand that you have to have a level of security, but when you lead with that on the first date, you know, for me, it's always been a red flag.
Now, I must say, I never lead with that on the first date. To me, the first date is actually seeing if I can just have fun with you, period. The only time I actually ever even say those words is if I'm starting to see that he is not a secure person, if he's really starting that whole watching and monitoring and who is that and why is this and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So I don't know if somebody would say that on the first date, but if they did, it may be because they have had a very bad experience. Not necessarily so much about the friend zone, because I don't think women think much about our friend zone, because if I meet you and I already have a friend zone, that means that I could have already chosen from that friend zone. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So my
Mhm.
friend zone, it doesn't matter if the men are in waiting. That part doesn't matter. If they're in the friend zone, that's where they are.
Mhm. Mhm.
Period. It's like when men friend zone a woman. People get friend zoned for a reason. Either they are an attractive person, but there's something about them that you would not want to have a relationship with them, you know, or
People
they're a really smart person, but they're not attractive.
people also friend zone people because their plate is full.
Oh, wait till I break up with them and then the next. Okay.
Yeah, like, I can't deal with you right now. My rotation is full right now, but stay around.
I have a general statement about that. I think people ought to be careful about when they communicate to other people what they want, what they need, and what they're looking for. I try to assess whether or not a person is secure rather than telling them what I need, so they don't try to pretend to be what I need. And so a lot of people, instead of getting to know the other person in the dating stage, they just project what they want that person to be onto them during the dating stage. And I think that is a cause of a lot of mishaps, wasted time, hurt feelings, and bruised egos. In court, they call it leading the witness, right? You have to ask the witness an open question so that they can actually answer it, not give them the answer you're looking for in the question and then expect an honest answer. I think that applies to dating as well.
Yeah.
And from that standpoint, it is a red flag. If people are sort of like leading with discussions like that, instead of allowing for the dynamic to take place between the both of you, where you're actually getting to know one another, and you can figure out on your own if the person is insecure or jealous or anything along those lines. I agree with Xavier. You go out on this date with somebody, you should be just having fun and enjoying the attraction if there's an attraction there. And then over time, these other things, they just have a way of just revealing themselves, and you don't have to like dictate to another person what you want. There'll be an opportunity to have conversations about what, the expectations are or how you view a relationship. All right. But, that shouldn't happen so early in the game where it sounds like you're sort of like dictating, how a person should act, because what people will do, if you start sliding stuff out there really early, they will start, behaving in ways that you've dictated. And over time, you'll be disappointed because they're not going to be able to hold it up because it's not really who they are.
Right. All right. Do we have another red flag?
Yeah, I got one more. And this one is, this applies equally to men and women. And I anticipate massive pushback on this one.
Okay. All right.
People who refuse to post their significant others on social media. And I'm not talking about people that, just shy people and, all they ever post is inspirational messages. I'm talking about, you see them out with their girlfriends, you see them out with their kids, you see them out with their workmates, but you never see him or her.
I can
on social media.
On that. Good.
Yeah.
I'd love to chime in on that, Augustus.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
I'm the person you're talking about, right? No, my question to you would be, what are the interrelational benefits of posting your partner on social media?
Men like to show off what they're proud of. You show off your new car, you show off, oh, guess what? I just got a new job. Yay. We show off things we're proud of. We used to put picture before social media, we would put a big picture of Our Lady on our desk. Well, we don't do that anymore. Or, carry a picture of your girlfriend around in your wallet. Social media allows you to show off to the world the thing that you should be most proud of.
And so how does that benefit the relationship? You're pausing because it doesn't, Augustus. And so I'm not saying that people shouldn't post people on social media, but I think it's a myth to think that there's something wrong if a person doesn't want to post their personal social media. What I find is that society as a whole is not generally relationship friendly. In fact, friends and family who actually care about you are not always relationship friendly. And so what I'm seeing happening in so many cases right now is that a relationship is for two people, but there are 5 and 10 and 20 and sometimes 100 people on the ship because people are running to social media with their relationships. And so I've never posted a relationship on social media, but I've also never been engaged or married. I believe that new relationships are like a baby. They're at their weakest point. You guys know each other the least. The connection is the weakest. And so I believe in building up the strength of a relationship and actually building a relationship and trust and communication and giving the relationship a head start to be able to be successful before exposing it to the harms of the rest of the world. The same way I wouldn't let all of you hold, if I had a child tomorrow, I wouldn't let you all hold my child in the same way I wouldn't expose my newly formed relationship to everyone either. And, right or wrong, that's what's best for me. But I have gotten pushback about that in relationships and dating several times.
But I'm not just talking about new relationships. I'm talking about people that have been secret lovers, social media wise, for years. I mean, how can you not at some point, hey, Bay's birthday party, we were at this dance,
Well, I think that people use social media.
Just crop them out?
No, I think people use social media for different reasons, right? So there may be some that are out there that you're describing, Augustus, where they like to post the highlights of their life. All right, they like to post more personal things. They like to post their partners and their children and, new cars. There are people out there that do that. But then there are other people who don't post anything of a personal nature on their social media. And it's not because it's a red flag, it's because they use it for different purposes. So some people use social media for the purpose of reconnecting with old friends, or some people use social media just for the purpose of having dialogue with people online. Some people use social media for professional purposes, all right, only. So I think everybody has their own purpose for using social media. And just because someone doesn't want to post someone they're dating or married to or in a relationship with, doesn't necessarily mean that that's a red flag. I think what you need to understand is what is the purpose of that individual using social media.
So my and potentially I might answer a little bit of Nyatu's question as well. How does it benefit the relationship? And that is one of those general relationship guru type of statements, because each relationship is different. And how it could benefit a relationship is by giving that one person that feels they need that presence in their life. We create our social media presence. And now, if you're a person that does not spend a lot of time on social media, you're rarely ever on there, then it doesn't really matter if you have your mate on there or not, because you probably don't even interact with that many people. So for me, I'm just going to say me as an example. I am on social media probably more than, but I'm usually in Messenger. However, I have a definite social media presence. When I was in a relationship, I mean, everybody knew when I dated Will some years ago. And he actually filmed a lot of my shows. Well, he was the camera guy. And so I had him on there. We had in a relationship and our pages were even connected because he was the man in my life, period. I wasn't dating anybody else. We were together for 3.5 years. It was now. When we broke up, I did get into another relationship since then, but there was some other tangibles about that relationship. So I never really posted our pictures. I think I might have posted one picture, but I never put in a relationship and we didn't link our pages together because of other stuff that was going on. When that relationship ended, I said to myself, the next man that I actually have on my page, I'll at least be engaged to, because I want to make sure that he survives, all of the other stuff. We actually make it to an engagement. But one of the sayings that I have is, people who don't have anything to hide, don't hide anything. My relationship, if I'm out and about with my guy, clearly everybody knows because I'm out and about. It's not like I just go to a restaurant and eat. I'm at networking events. I'm at events, and I'm all over the place. And you'll see me with my guy, I hope, when I have one anyway, because that's the kind of guy that I want. I want one that does like to go and do those things. So why wouldn't I have him on my page? I can't see why I wouldn't have him on my page, especially if it was something that he wanted, just, to feel that he is part of all aspects of my life. I don't need to hide him on, because social media can only do so much. I mean, what are they going to do? Inbox him? We should all be smart enough to be able to maneuver through social media at this point. There's always somebody in my inbox. I'm sure there would be people and women maybe in his inbox. When I was with Will, women would start inboxing Will because they knew he was with me. I don't know what that whole thing was all about, but we would laugh about it. So together you maneuver the whole thing. If that is part of my life and I have a social media presence, I can't see why it wouldn't be part of my social media presence. I have nothing to hide. I don't need anybody to think I'm single if I'm not. So that's my thought on that.
Yeah, I love to push back on that, Xavier. One, you referenced my question, which tickles me as a relationship guru question, but it was very specific to the person. How does that benefit your relationship? I didn't say how does it benefit anybody's relationship, whereas you turn right around and you made statements like a person that doesn't have anything to hide doesn't hide anything, which is a generalization and makes the assumption that we're all uniform and the same and operate from the same perspective and operate in the same way, which is not true. That there are plenty of people with nothing to hide that don't share everything that goes on in their lives. For instance, I smoke cannabis. It's legal, but you ain't never seen me on social media holding marijuana in my hand, smoking video or anything like that. It's not because it's something to hide. It's because that's just not what I'm choosing to promote on my social media page.
I'm 420 friendly, and I say it, but I never post anything with it.
Why? If you don't have anything to hide, you should show everything, right?
Well, because now we're talking about your brand and the image, because you have a brand and an image as well. So for me, being in a relationship does not negatively affect my brand or my image. As a matter of fact, because I do relationship discussions and events and all that kind of stuff, it actually is good for my image to be in a relationship, or be, or dating. I talk about dating on my page. I don't date successfully because I'm too picky, so I've been told. But anyway, we don't need to go there. But I think people who have nothing to hide nothing on a larger scale, as far as a relationship. If you have a social presence and that is part of who you are, that cannot hurt you unless you are. Okay, so I was watching something and they were talking about certain actors and performers that are married, but they don't promote that they're married because they are more sex symbol type actors or performers. and them
Mhm.
being in a relationship would actually hurt their image or their brand. So, okay, that's a business decision. So I understand why you wouldn't necessarily put, oh, I smoke cannabis and, have a video and a picture, getting messed up, or what they say, putting some trees in the air, whatever. I can understand that because it would affect your business. That's your money. But unless your image is being single is part of your image, I don't know how it would, people who have nothing to hide nothing. Unless it's going to affect your money.
That goes back to what you said. You said you're not posting another relationship until you're engaged, right?
Right.
Why? Because it doesn't
because
benefit your brand to walk everybody through the ups and downs of your dating experiences and or your relationship. It does not benefit your brand to bring 5,000, 10,000, 30,000 followers through your vetting process when you meet somebody. And so, we're actually in agreement in that I said, hey, I would have to be at the point of being engaged and have built a strong relationship before I expose it to the harms of the world. I think society is overall is pretty toxic towards relationships. And some of the most successful people I know and don't know often repeat the words that, the most successful plans often are the ones that are kept a secret until it's too late. And so the success has already occurred. And so I was part of launching a beer brand. My niece, a friend of mine since high school, said, hey, man, why you didn't tell me nothing about this? Yeah, because until it came out of the brewery and was in a can, and I knew 100,000% sure that it's coming out, there's nothing to talk about.
Right.
And sharing the plan could only potentially help somebody run off with it or possibly harm it, but definitely not try to help it. So I don't think there's anybody on social media who's going to help my relationship. And so I'm of the school of whatever's not helping you is hurting you. There is no neutral. Either it's pushing you towards where you want to go, or it's pushing you away from wherever you want to go. And that's everything that you say and do on a daily basis. And so if I can't see how it's going to push me towards where I want to go, then oftentimes I assess it as potentially harming where I want to go. And that's my 2 cents.
I never got a chance to answer the question. You kind of cut me off and you mistook my Chicago Midwestern slow response to not having an answer.
Everybody in the Midwest is slow.
The answer is it's security. It helps your relationship. I'm a licensed private investigator. I can't tell you how many people are hiding relationships, staying off social media to hide the fact that they have, 5 or 6 women in their inbox, the same guy. He might be dating 4 or 5 women on his page. It helps a woman be secure. I was dating a woman that lived in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. When we decided that we were going to embark upon a long distance relationship, the first thing she asked me is, are you going to post me? It made her secure, and that helped our relationship.
Okay. And I see that point as well. I do it because I think when I did it, I did it because I felt it was a representation of who I was. And I feel like when you're transparent, people will be more transparent with you. I think that whole trust, I need to be able to trust you if I'm going to share, like we're all in some form of as therapists or life coaches or counselors. And to some degree, you have to offer some transparency as well. If you're very closed off, I couldn't trust anybody like that. I just didn't know anything about them. Like, that's not information I'm willing to share. If everything is not information that you're willing to share, then how can you expect people to share information with you? It's kind of how I look at it. And that's why I had my page set up like that. But that's a great discussion. We might have to have like a topic on to post or not to post your mate. That sounds like a good one.
Yeah.
Did you have something to say, Marvin?
I'm just going to say that, the impact of social media on all of our lives has has really like changed our perspective on a lot of things. It is another form of communication that some people rely on more than others. Right? In your case, Xavier, it is a huge part of what you do. For others of us, it's not a huge part of what we do. Right? And to think that that posting your relationship on Facebook or some other form of social media gives the security that the individual needs, to me, it indicates a couple of things. One thing it indicates is that maybe you all spend a lot of time on social media, and that's maybe one of your primary forms of communication when it comes to people. And if that be the case, cool. But I think we all know when it comes to trust and security in relationships, there are so many other ways you can gain that sense of security and trust that does not involve social media.
And that's
and apparently it's been going on for a while because social media ain't always been around. So, people have found ways to develop security and trust outside of social media.
Well said, Marvin. Well said.
And I agree with that. But now we do have social media. So we can't stand up here and continue to look back and say, well, back then, because otherwise you need to get up and change the channel and stop using that remote control too. So you have to operate where you are, not where you were.
Again, that's telling people what's best for them based on what's best for you.
Right.
It always concerns me when, as relationship experts, gurus, whatever people want to call themselves, I call myself a student because I might be a master student, but I'm never done learning. I don't refer to myself as an expert or a guru of any sorts. I'm still learning. And I understand that I only live in the bubble of my experience. And the bubble of my experience is very limited. It's 7 billion people on the planet Earth. Even if I have interacted with 10 million of those people, that's still less than 1% of the population. And not only that, that percentage of the population is the percentage that I attracted based on who I am. And so a lot of times the experiences we have, they're real for us and they're our reality, but they aren't the only reality. And they certainly aren't the reality for everyone. And so when relationship gurus reference their own personal experiences, that's what they're pulling from. That's a very limited view, and it's a very skewed view because it's organized in part by what you attract, the decisions you make, the choices you make, all dictates what type of experience you end up having. And so I think different strokes for different folks. I am very proud of the fact that I graduated from a real estate receivership class 3 weeks ago. It has put me in a position already to make a lot of money and to help my community. I haven't made a post about it, but it's not because I got something to hide. I just haven't. My social media is used for marketing and branding. And so that's what it has to be. It has to be marketing and branding. And so I was in a relationship last year where this topic was coming up. And I'm saying, okay, our relationship is getting stronger. We're getting a little further along in this, but I'm just not going to announce we're in a relationship all willy-nilly. I have a brand. And if I have been branding myself as single all of this time, and that's changed, now I have to brand myself as being in a relationship, not just throw it out there willy-nilly. Another thing that I found in being in this space is that it can be sometimes unfair to your significant other to put them out there as far as relationships are concerned, because how many times do we get asked about our personal relationship, asked about our personal dating life? And is that fair to the other person that we're putting so many things on Front Street? And so this is why I say that I will wait till I'm engaged until there has been a demonstration that we both can handle what's all to come with this. That young lady used to hit me up all the time and talk about some of the other relationship people who are out there in the forefront and are popular, how when they got married or they exposed who their girlfriend is or who they exposed who their wife is, their social media is not kind. So they're judging their appearance. They're judging that woman's body shape. They're judging every post that woman makes not because of her or anything she's doing right and or wrong, but just simply because they're in a relationship with somebody who's out in the forefront talking about relationships and giving advice. And so I think in our situation, it can be a very slippery slope if not handled correctly.
And now that part of it, I agree with you 100%, because that was one of the things that was actually an issue sometimes when Will and I were together, because everyone had their opinion, you know, whether he was good enough or, you know, why I chose him. And, you know, those things, they came in posts, they came in inboxes. So that is something that you do have to take into consideration, depending on, you know, who you are and, you know, what comes along with you, because absolutely, I know, and Nyatu, I know, you know, this being in a forefront type position on social media, and I don't even do Instagram that much, so I'm sure mine is less than yours, but that does bring a lot of scrutiny. And if you have a person that is really not that in front of the camera kind of person, that doesn't want to be on the mic, that's not shaking hands and, you know, smiling at everybody, if you have one of those people that's just kind of to themselves, that would be very overwhelming for them, because it was pretty overwhelming for him.
I've experienced that with my girlfriend being Glozell Green's social media influencer, 2 million followers. Some of the things that I've read in her when she's posted about me made it'll knock your socks off. I don't even go in her comments anymore.
Okay, well, okay, so you know what? It was funny because I was about to ask if any of the listeners had any questions, but when you said the name, it's the name that you just said. But if she has any questions that she would like to ask our panel, she can take her mic off mute and make a comment, unless you have another red flag.
No, I'm out of red flags.
You out of red flags? That's all the red flags?
All for now. I was going to get into women who call other women pick-me's, but
yes, let's do that one.
Oh, okay, let's do it. Women who call other women pick-me's. It can, you know, you can be on a post and they tend to branch off into gender wars, and one woman will come in and say, well, I understand the guy's point of view. I think $300,000 a month child support is a bit much. He's not going to pick you.
So, Nyatu and Marvin, is that a red flag when the women that call other women pick-me's? Would you date one of them women?
A pick-me or a woman who's calling women pick-me's?
The one who's calling, oh, either one. Which one would be more appealing, the pick-me or the other one?
I don't base on that whether or not I want to date a person. I think a woman who says that's a yellow flag for me. I'm not going to call it a red. What is the context? But overall, I don't like that term. I think everybody is different, and so just because you think that a woman is saying this because she thinks that the men will see that she's agreeing with them and then want to date them, doesn't mean that that's true. And so I find that people use that term very loosely, that they will try to shame a woman for disagreeing with them, right? So you got women who some, not all, not most, who are going on tirades and bashing men on social media, and then a woman comes in and disagrees with her, and she's like, "You just a pick me," and she's just saying that simply because the woman disagreed with her and she wants to insult her and dilute or dismiss her disagreeing with them. So I'm not a big fan of the word simp. I'm not a big fan of the word pick me. I think we're, different strokes for different folks, and it takes all different types of people to make a world, and everybody doesn't have to see the world the way that you see it or operate the way that you would if you were them. And so that's my thoughts on that. That's definitely a yellow flag. There would have to be some great context to make me be okay with that statement.
Okay. Marvin?
I just kind of feel like that, again, we are sort of like getting into areas that create limitations. People should be able to express their point of view, no matter how different it is, because they are an individual. We all are individuals. Yeah, we have things that are common among us, but we all are individuals, and what makes us individuals are our experiences. And when we get into this whole like you will pick me because you like disagreeing with somebody, that's not the way the world is. The world is made up of so many things that are different, and when we try to limit the differences that are out there, that creates contentions, that creates conflict, and what we really should be doing is embracing the differences that we have. So it's not necessarily a red flag, but I am kind of like looking at you sort of narrowly at that point, because I'm hoping that you will allow yourself to open up a little bit more and kind of experience life from someone else's point of view.
That whole pick me thing is really crazy to me as well. And I think it really, again, I said you have to kind of be familiar with a person, where they come from, their background and experiences a little bit. I was a daddy's girl. I'm an only child and I was a daddy's girl. So me and my dad were really close. So I may be a little more sensitive to issues that men may present than somebody else. A woman who has sons, she may be a little more sensitive to issues that men face than someone else. I read that, and if I were a guy, I would, first of all, this person is name calling. And to me, name calling is like one of the most childish and immature things that you can do. So as soon as I see the name calling, it's just like, okay, it gives you a screenshot of their mental stability to me, where they are maturity wise and mentally. And so that would definitely be, that's a turn off to me. I don't even want to be their friends. If they send me a friend request, I'm not going to accept their friend request. I think that's just totally crazy. So, okay. Well, if our listener, Ms. Green, doesn't have a question for the fellas, then I'm going to move on to the next question, because we do have a few more questions that were submitted. Okay, hey, there you are. You have a question for him.
I do not have a question. I'm enjoying listening. And what I have also learned, because, I'm all out there. First of all, Augustus Golden is 4.5 million. I don't know why you said 2 million. I'm like hurt that you don't know that about my social media. But since I'm always out there, now this is Augustus' time and he's doing this, I've had problems where it ends up turning to talking to me. So now I'm like, I don't know what to say. Should I comment, not comment? This is his thing. Let him do his thing now, or is he okay with it? Because I had a relationship that was, I didn't find out that he hated everything that I did. Because I end up taking over. People want to ask questions. What was President Barack Obama like? And how do you grow your social media? When he wanted to talk about painting or something. And I'm like, so I really don't know.
That was in posting your mate. Can you hear me?
That was in posting.
In regard to posting your mate on your social media.
Well, you said, yeah, any questions at all, because this is my boyfriend's, time. And here I am. So I'm just like, I do have contradictions to stuff that he said. So I'm like, I'm just going to keep it to myself. I'm like, what are you talking about? But,
okay.
but you did a great job, honey.
All right.
I agree. I just don't agree. Okay.
Okay, so she doesn't agree with everything that you said, but that's normal in couples, so that's a good thing. So I guess we're gonna hit up the next question. Okay, are single fathers looked at differently than single mothers? Nyatu?
Not by me, but I am out here in these social media streets. And one of these relationship people who have gone viral has made it popular for men to try to pretend like a woman's value is lowered with every man if she has children.
Mm-hmm.
You know, would prefer someone without children. Biological daughter that we bonded when she was 2 and never let each other go. And I bought every bike she's ever had. And she lives in Florida. And when she was in elementary school still, I was walking her to school on FaceTime. So, you know, doesn't change anything for me. It's not different. You know, you got a child, you got a child, you don't have a child, you don't have a child.
Okay. Marvin?
So it shouldn't be different, but there are differences in terms of perspectives when it comes to this, and it's all based on stuff that's not true. You know, it really is, and it's all based on stuff that's not legitimate. But there are differences, unfortunately. You know, women who have children are looked at differently than, you know, men who are single and have children. You know, I think the perspective is unfortunately gender-based, and it's based on, you know, these sort of like expectations that have been, you know, that have infiltrated our thinking throughout the years. You know, unfortunately, when a woman has children and she's single, the thought is that something's wrong with her from a male's perspective. And then unfortunately, when it comes to men who have children, from a woman's perspective, is that, you know, it could be a couple of things. It could be that, you know, he's not responsible and accountable. So he's just out here having children by different women. Or it could be from a woman's perspective is that, hey, you know, he is available and I could be a mother to his children, that kind of thing. So there are these like outdated perspectives when it comes to things. And again, if we travel down the road that we should be traveling, you know, we will not engage in these kind of like, you know, stigmas and discussions when it comes to people, because, you know, there is no real difference between the two in actuality, but we've kind of like driven these sort of like negative perspectives, and they are out there.
Yeah, it seems to me, and I've always thought it seemed like single fathers are applauded. You know, it's like, oh, you're doing a great thing raising your kids, and they can get lots of help from family and friends because, you know, they're doing a great thing, while single mothers are kind of looked down upon, like, oh, you had a kid by some dude and now, you know, you stuck taking care of this kid by yourself. It definitely, I always looked at it as being different as well. I wound up being a single parent after my husband was killed. And I went from being a family, it's like, oh, you have such a cute family, to, you know, people who don't know my story, they look at you like, oh yeah, you got 2 kids. We know who you are. Okay.
Can I add a little to that? Because people ridicule men and women for not having kids and never having been married. So there's a lot of men around here right now, like if a woman is over 35 and she don't got no kids and she ain't never been married, something wrong with her. Yeah, right. And I see a lot of women saying if a man is over 35 and he's never been married, he hasn't had any kids, they side-eyeing him, you know, maybe he's gay or something along those lines. Yep. So, you know, you damned if you do, you damned if you don't in this world, which is why I say society is not a friend of relationships, romance, and marriage. Society gonna try to figure out a way to make you doubt your relationship, doubt your decisions, doubt yourself in so many situations. I don't see the benefits.
Okay, so this is an interesting question, considering that we had the red flags from Augustus. So Augustus threw out red flags that men supposedly see. So a woman wrote a question. She's like, what are 3 major red flags a woman should look out for? So when we're meeting guys out here in this dating world, what are 3 things we should look out for and consider them red flags?
I think one of the first things that women have to consider is that off the cuff, he is overwhelmingly objectifying her. Right. So, you know, I think it's clear that when you meet somebody that, you know, if the person is attractive, there's going to be evidence that you find the person attractive in the conversation, in the body movements and different things like that. But when it's overwhelming to the degree that everything is about what's going on with you physically, that's a problem. Okay. So that's a red flag. The other thing that's a red flag is that if I'd say another red flag would be is if the individual is not, you know, prepared for the date, meaning that you know, they show up, they might show up late without even like, you know, letting you know that they're going to be late, or, you know, they're just not prepared to actually like, you know, have a conversation at that time. You know, they could have said something like, well, you know, today is not a good day, maybe we should reschedule. You know, they're just not prepared for the moment at all. And this doesn't mean taking a woman out to the most expensive restaurant or anything like that, but you're just not in a headspace where you can actually be on a date, because that could be that he's got other stuff going on in his life, maybe another woman, or maybe just other things going on in his life that he's not prepared to actually like, you know, actually go out with people at this point. So I think that's a red flag as well. I think the third thing, if there will be a third thing, when it comes to things that women should look for, is obviously if, you know, his conversation is less about getting to know you and more about himself.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a red flag. You know, if you're interested in somebody, you should be interested in trying to get to know them, and not just kind of like promoting yourself and whoever you are and what you're doing. I think that's a red flag.
I agree. I went on a date with a guy before COVID hit, and he did not ask me one question about myself. Not one. He didn't ask me one question about myself. And all he talked about was how beautiful I was.
Hmm?
And so I never went out on another date with him. As a matter of fact, I never even answered the phone when he called again. That is a definite red flag. That's definitely a red flag. And Nyatu?
So I coach people to look for green flags and or the absence of green flags. I think that when we approach dating looking for red flags, that we maybe create a mindset that attracts people who have those red flags. So I agree with what Marvin said, that you can learn a lot more about a person from the questions they ask you than you can from their answers to your questions. Mm-hmm. So one of the things women definitely need to look at and assess is, you know, what is making this man interested in me, and the types of questions that he asks you are very revealing. So as you stated in your example, he just kept talking about how beautiful you are. So, you know, he was concerned about your appearance and the physical only. So that's the absence of a green flag if he's not interested in who you are beyond the scope of your beauty. Another absence of a red flag is if a man doesn't have much good to say about women in general, or any of the women who have been in his life, whether romantic or not romantic. My nieces asked me before they went away to college as freshmen, to give them the best advice for college that I could ever give them. And I share with them that there are many men who really love women, nieces, and there are many men who really hate and resent women. And sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between the two. That the men that hate and resent women will pretend to really like and love them to get in position, but they're only trying to learn you to burn you. And so time reveals all. So if a man is telling you how much he likes you and he loves you and how attracted he is to you, but you scroll back a month or two on a social media and everything is bashing women, you might be on a date with a guy who likes the benefits that he can get from women, but doesn't really like women. And in fact, resents women in any success or confidence or anything positive that they have going on. And so again, the absence of green flags. And a third, I would say, is a man who doesn't know his purpose. That's the absence of a green flag. Again, I'm not do the red flag challenge that they're doing on social media right now. But yeah, if a man doesn't know his purpose, then it's highly unlikely that the choices and decisions and the desires that he has in his life are aligned, for lack of a better word. And so it's going to be hard to sustain a long-term relationship with a man who doesn't really know who he is and what he's supposed to be doing.
I agree with that.
Point. Purpose is very important.
Yes. Yep. A friend of mine had a podcast the other day, and he said that you should really find someone that is not only in love with you, but in love with your purpose, in love with what drives you, with what you're passionate about. If they're in love with all of that stuff, then that is more longevity, because he said, and we all know it's true, emotions can change. So you may love me today, but next week you might be like, yeah, nah. But, if you are in love with my purpose and my passion and all of that stuff, if you want to be supportive and part of that whole, goal, long-term thing, that gives you a better foundation to stick around and actually grow together, if you're on that same page with that. You said something in Nyatu that we actually have a question about. And so now I'm interested to see how this question will get answered. And it's okay. So the question is, what are signs of a man that doesn't really like women? How can we know some of it, but yeah, what are signs that a man really doesn't like women? Like you were mentioning, there are men that don't like women. What are some of the signs?
I think they all basically come from the same place, and that is just a lot of general negative statements or feelings about women. And so I don't have a one size fits all answer of where you can find that. But what I encourage my women clients to do, or any woman who will listen to me, is to ask very open-ended questions about how men feel about women, or how men feel about general topics relating to men and women. So we say, hey, I saw on social media today, they were talking about men shouldn't have to pay for dates ever again, that if a woman doesn't want to Netflix and chill, then she's not the one for you. And that's maybe a bad example, but even if you say that, a man will start to chime in on how he feels about women in general. And so that's a strategy for vetting a man in that area, is to have general discussions, adult topic discussions and conversations, and don't let him know what your position is in advance. Say, hey, I heard a man say this. What you think about that? I heard a conversation about this, and I was just curious, what do you think about that? And usually because it's not related to the two of you, a lot of people will just let what they really think fly in that scenario. I hope that's helpful.
Okay.
So my thoughts are more along the lines of just observing. Just observe how he treats the women that are around him. I mean, like the women that are considered the most important in his life, how is he treating them? Or the women that are considered the least important, like the waitress. How is he treating the women around him? And just observe if he's actually like considerate, kind, and thoughtful. Observe his behavior when he's around women. It's going to slip out verbally at some point, absolutely. How he feels about it, and some experiences that he's had. So another way you can figure that out is that if he's reflecting on past relationships with women in a very like bitter and grudgingly kind of way, that'll give you a sign also that maybe he's got some issues with women. But for the most part, I'm thinking that you can pretty much watch people and pretty much tell if there is a deep-seated like dislike for women.
Okay. So I got one more question. And this one is actually my question. And it's because I hear so many men on one side and so many on the other side. I kind of know what your answer is going to be, but I want you to consider what you hear as you're out and about as well. I'm trying not to lead the question by saying my thoughts, but just keep in mind all the information that comes your way, right? Is there a shortage of good women? Everybody don't speak at once.
A shortage. No, I don't think that. I definitely don't think that there's that every woman out here is good for. I only think there's a select few, if not only one, that is right for me, and so that's how I gauge that. So I don't encounter a woman and realize that she's not for me and then assess her as not a good woman. She's just not good for me. There's some guy out here who might love everything that she's saying and doing. It's just not me. But I think there's a misperception that there are many more good or great women out here than there are men. And from my experience and from what I see, and even talking to clients and having these type of discussions, that's not the case. That the struggle is real for everybody.
Okay.
Okay. So before I answer that question, I had one more thought when it came to the prior question, and that was, you show me a man who hates women, I'll show you also a man who hates himself. So that's just one thought that you want to keep in mind too. We all come from women. So, anybody that's despising women, that's definitely someone that just doesn't like themselves too. So I want to add that as well. Now, as far as like, is there a shortage of good women out there? That question has been posed on both sides. Is there a shortage of good women? Is there a shortage of good men? And the answer is a very loud, there is not a shortage of either. I think what people are experiencing when they're in the dating and relationship world is that They are dating or coming into contact with people who are just simply different from they are and have had different experiences, which interfere with their ability to actually be matched with that individual. That doesn't mean that there are not good people out there. So I think in some ways I'm repeating what Nyatu just said, but on the other hand, I just think it's important for us to realize that as African Americans, and if we really want to zone in on this, and Xavier, you and I have talked about this before, as African Americans, there is so much trauma in our community, so much trauma that we carry around with us. Unless we get the healing that we need and deserve, it's going to be difficult for many of us to be in relationships because we are blindly walking through our community as damaged individuals and damaging other people. All right. So in general, to answer the question, there are so many good people out there, so many good women. But the problem is that, and this applies to men as well, is that we are so damaged emotionally, and we need to be healed in order to be successful in relationships.
Okay, I like that answer. You know, I wanted to ask the question because lately I've heard all of the complaints. I don't know if either of you have been on my page today. I even posted a video of this guy, and he had clips from actual women who were really sharing some crazy information, and it was just really a crazy video. And I'm often surprised, but these are younger people. Again, I often think that some of this has to do with the age group that you're talking about as well, because once you get, you know, past 40, there's just things that you are, I think, but sometimes men prove me wrong with that because they may be over 40 and they have met a woman in that age group that may just really have a nasty house or may not be up on hygiene herself. So I don't know. And so I wanted to ask that question because I hear a lot of men complaining now about the challenges that women bring along with them. As was mentioned earlier, you know, women who have unhealthy, non-romantic relationships with their sons, you know, or their kids in general, all of that stuff. So I just, and then you run into the men who talk about the women who make good money, but because they've gone through everything by themselves, they no longer feel the need for a man because they've faced all the challenges alone. And if you face all the challenges alone and you know that you can stand on your own, you don't really feel a need for anyone else, if you know what I'm saying. You know, we all need each other, just as people, we all need each other in general. I'm just saying, if you're going through all of your challenges, when you go through the challenge stage and you make it through some of those challenges and you've acquired some things and attained some things, then you may not feel a need for anyone else. So I just thought I would ask that question because there's a lot of complaining going on about, you know, women. And I know you could come right back and say there's a lot of complaining going on about men as well. But I just wanted to ask that question if there was a shortage of good women. Now,
I'd like to say a little something about that really quick. I know we're about to end, so I try to make it 30 seconds, but dating is trial and error. And I think people are just frustrated with the trial and error because they're not accepting that that's part of the process, that every guy or woman that you meet is not supposed to be perfect for you, that there's a process to getting you ready and getting you to your person. And I think people are rejecting the process. I've heard so many people say that they're tired of learning lessons. And I think that's because they aren't really learning the lesson. That they're telling themselves that there's a shortage out there and they're not looking at their influence on their own results.
Yeah, we should be having fun with it, dating. We should be having a ball out there. You should be getting to know people's interests and just talking about things that are like bring you pleasure. You know, you have to dive into the process and really enjoy it and stop looking at it always from the angle of, this ain't a good match. I got to go back out of here again. Enjoy the process.
Mhm. Okay, well, Marvin, tell our listeners again what they can expect from your monthly show.
So for my monthly show, in short, we're going to talk about everything that relates to all the kind of relationships that people find themselves in. If you're in a friendship, if you're in a marriage, if you're in a long-term relationship or short-term relationship, if you're in a situationship, if you're in just a simple need for companionship. We're going to talk about everything that comes along with all those relationships and answer all your questions too.
Okay, and where can people find you?
You can find me on Psychology Today. If you type in my name in Psychology Today, my entire bio and information will come up, and how, if you care to, make an appointment as well.
Okay, and Nyatu, can you let our listeners know what to expect from your show?
Absolutely. So what they can expect is for me to look for ways to be helpful in uniting Black men and women overall and romantically with their person. That I'm looking to provide tools that can help them understand their needs, and provide tools that can help them really use the dating process for what it's designed for, which is to collect data on the other person, but even more importantly, to collect data on yourself so that you can have a great understanding of what it is that you really want and need, and not the wants and needs that have been projected onto you by parents, television, radio, society, and/or social media.
Excellent. Well, I would like to thank you guys for joining me today on the launch show, so that everyone could meet you as the guest host and look forward to your shows. I am Xavier Fox, and you can find me on Facebook as Xavier Fox, on Instagram as Xavier Fox, and you can go to my website, which is xavierfox.com. You can join the radio group on Facebook, which is Let's Talk About It with Xavier Fox, and that way you can get all the reminders and stuff when the shows are coming up. Also, if you'd like to check out everyone else on the show, you can go to my website, xavierfox.com, and click on the show button, and it'll take you to the radio show, and you can see all of the guest hosts and get a schedule outline of when the shows will air. We do Monday morning talk from 7 to 9 a.m. And on Thursdays and Fridays, it is the lunchtime talk from 12 to 2. And it's a different show every day. So make sure you tune in and check us out. And for now, I am signing out. You guys have a great day.